Oh, hello everyone. It's Susie, Crypto Granny here. Let me just fix this up. Bear with me. And what have we got here? Sorry, investment. That's looking weird. No, that's okay. Sorry about that. It's Susie here, Crypto Granny. The date is the 29th, 4th, 2023, and the time in Europe is 17:49 p.m. And it is a beautiful day here. The sun is out and I should be outside, but apologies, I haven't done a podcast for a couple of days. We've been extremely busy with our new platform and our app, which will come to existing clients in the next 3 weeks or so. So we'll start putting people on our new app. We're moving from Patreon because it's just too expensive. It's about cost us commission of something like 20% plus with PayPal. We pay another 5% for currency conversion. So moving to our own app and our own desktop platform is fantastic, and you're going to love the app and the platform when we release it. It's absolutely fantastic, and it enables us to post quick stories, post buys and sells, and all sorts of things, and events and everything else. So it's going to be fantastic. Now, the podcast, as you know, is focused on cryptocurrency market news, what we believe is going to affect the cryptocurrency market going forward. And certainly we scour all the data out there, all the news, the things, anything that we're sitting in terms of crypto coins in our investment or trading portfolios, which currently we have 6 in total. So, that's what we view and that's what we concentrate on. Now, market cap at the moment is 1.233 trillion. Volume is very low at 22.25 bill. Liquidity is reasonable, but still low at 4.703 bill. When the market's really bull, that liquidity goes up to about 6 bill. And when the market is real bull, this goes up to about 80 odd billion, right? Bitcoin dominance is still very high at 46.29%. And there's a reason for that because there's no supply of Bitcoin left. Okay, and there's some big projections of Bitcoin going forward. Standard Chartered Bank are calling Bitcoin to 100,000 by next year. And I agree with them. I believe Bitcoin will take out its high this year, simply because there's no supply, interest rates are too high, the global economy is terrible. What's happening in the US is a shocker. And I do believe that they'll have to start easing rates. I think they're using the wrong mechanism, the Fed in the US, to get rid of inflation. I mean, it's almost like years ago, people had cancer treatment and they used to, zap you with all sorts of things. And the treatment was worse than, it used to kill all the good cells as well as the bad cells. And this is what the Fed's doing. And they haven't updated their toolkit. They've got no idea. And raising interest rates is just making inflation worse. And it's killing the end consumer that cannot afford to pay for housing repayments and this sort of thing, right? We're already seeing the property market everywhere in the G7 countries, including Australia, going down, down, down. And I suggest that it will go down a lot. We have massive inflation in the system, and the Fed is using the wrong mechanism to get rid of inflation. Also, we are seeing massive contagion in the US banking system, and the Fed is just being ridiculous. They're sitting on their hands. They're just a bunch of old dopes, if you want to call it that, and they're just not looking at the big picture. Also, there's a lot of divestment of the US dollar. We see China, Russia, South American countries, I should say, even other countries in Africa, looking at divesting out of the US dollars, creating digital assets where they're going to back it with gold, which means gold can go up quite a lot. But also, there's a big trend now, as Putin said, that people are transacting in ruble, the Russian currency, as well as the Chinese yuan. And they want to get out of the US, of course, because of the sanctions on the US in terms of Russia and China, but also they have their own settlement system, which is huge, right? So they don't need to go through SWIFT in the US, right? And this is substantial. Plus, we've also got this problem with the US. They need to increase their debt limit. They're running out of money. And again, they never pay their debts. Currently, their debt is around 31 trillion, and they want to raise their debt limit to 1.5 trillion. The US don't pay back anything. They just keep incurring more and more debt. If you look at the US economic environment at the moment, it's a disaster. The US is not generating anything. They're not generating any exports. They're not generating any growth. GDP was down at 1.1% or something for the quarter. It was a shocker. And seriously, they're not generating anything. And coupled with that, you've got the SEC finding everyone in crypto land, and US companies are moving out of the US, okay? And we're seeing that, and it's getting worse and worse. Also, the US is losing traction in terms of the cryptocurrency market, and it's losing traction to Asia, where a lot of transactions are being done, and also Europe, because MiCA came out. The regulatory environment in Europe is much more pro cryptocurrency than the US, and also Asia, Hong Kong, which is the backdoor to China. The Chinese can open up easily bank accounts in Hong Kong as well as cryptocurrency accounts. They're getting more and more volume on those traded traded Asian exchanges. Now, a lot of people are going to Asia to develop their exchanges. We're seeing that all the time, and they're particularly moving out of the US. If you've been listening to my podcast, you'll know those exchanges that have already moved out, and there's a lot of them, okay? And this is a disaster, an absolute disaster for the US. I've got to tell you that. Now, Bitcoin is at 29,487, Ethereum is at 1923, Tether at 1, Binance at 328, USDC $1, XRP at 4.488, ADA 0.40, OakB 47.94. We have Dodge at 0.0817 and Matic at 102. Now, also there's some economic data that came out. The Fed looks at personal consumption expenditure. Apparently it rose 0.3 month on month to 4.6 year on year. This measure doesn't include food or energy, which is a joke. So it shows you that inflation is seriously, seriously high. We are now in a situation of stagflation, right? In the US, there's stagflation globally, but there's no growth. It's a disaster, right? And you don't keep raising rates to get rid of stagflation, okay? Also employment costs starting to rise. Chicago PMI, which is a manufacturing index, is still under 50, which means there's no growth. It really is quite a disaster here. I've got to tell you that. And the US is just getting worse and worse, right? If you have a look at this story here, GDP grew 1.1. It's a terrible situation. They're not growing at all, and yet there's a credit crunch going on and contagion in the system, right? First, National Bank, its shares traded down to $3.51 on Friday, and yet, what, back in November of last year, the share price was at $150 or more, right? The US has contagion, and all it's doing is raising rates, which is a disaster for contagion, okay? Contagion where one bank goes down, it affects another bank because they have money sitting with that other bank that went down, and it affects everyone in the banking system. Now, what's happening also, people are not trusting the banks in the US or globally, and people are moving to crypto because of it, okay? And also because the Fed and the US intend to raise that debt limit. In other words, they keep borrowing money off the credit card and never repaying it down, which is just unheard of. I mean, individuals can't keep borrowing money on credit cards, and yet they're using a tactic, killing all the good cells and all the bad cells, like cancer treatment years ago, and it's killing the economy as well as the consumer. They're just not seeing it, and honestly, it's a disaster waiting to happen. Inflation is starting to pick up again. Rate rises are not going to reduce inflation because it is supply driven after COVID, right? It's a lack of supply. We see food prices going through the roof. We see, utilities going through the roof. We see resources going through the roof, and it's a disaster, right? It looks like Federal Power, the market is betting that they will raise rates again on May the 2nd to the 3rd. I think they're mad, absolutely mad. The yield curve, the yield curve in the US is in inversion or negative, a flattening yield curve, which means people are expecting a recession or even worse, a depression in the next year or so, right? It's a shocker, an absolute shocker. The growth is stalled, it's stopped. Even in Europe, the growth was 0 for the quarter, okay? And honestly, they should not be raising rates. It's just the wrong mechanism. If we look at people's positions in the fixed interest market and the bond market, people are short futures, which means they expect interest rates to go up further. but I think interest rates are too high and they should start coming down, okay? Otherwise, people are just going to get killed. If we have a look at a lot of the fund managers and the traders, they're actually short interest rates, as you can see on this Bloomberg chart, and yet a 10-year bond is around 3.5%, but yet a 2-year bond rate is around 5%. So we have massive inversion of 1.5 basis points, 150 basis points, right, or 1.5%. The market is betting the Fed will raise rates again on the 3rd of May, and I think they're crazy. There is massive contagion in the system, and First National Bank is about to go belly up, okay? First Republic Bank, I should say. This is the trading of First Republic Bank on Friday, got to 351. It is a disaster. Back here, in February, the stock was at $150 or so, okay? Essentially, they need to be bailed out. They lost all the deposits, $30 billion of deposits went to the bigger banks. And, the US Federal Deposit Insurance Company Corporation is preparing to place it under receivership imminently, okay? It looks like the US government prepares immediate takeover of First Republic Bank, but this is not the end of contagion, right? We've seen it with many other banks, Silicon Valley. I always forget these banks, Signature Bank. There was another one as well, but also we saw Credit Suisse go down, Google, and they had to be taken out by UBS, okay? So it looks like the FDIC receivership is going to happen this week, and apparently this weekend there may be a bid from JP Morgan or PNC, potentially, but either way, this is massive contagion, and it is a shocker, okay? An absolute shocker. And raising rates when you're putting money into the money market system and the bond markets, it's just absolute craziness, right? There is massive systematic risk within the system. Banks are falling and going down the gurgler very, very quickly, okay? Very, very quickly indeed. So there was Signature Bank, Silicon Valley, and there was another one. I always forget the other one, but you get the general idea here, people. It is a disaster, right? An absolute disaster. Also, coupled with that, the debt ceiling needs to be raised in the US. As I said, their credit card, they've blown their limit again with their credit card. And if you look at the US debt, it's 31 trillion. The US will pay that back for every person in the US that have to pay back 180,000 US dollars, okay, to get rid of all their debt. The US is effectively broke, okay? It is broke and it never pays back its debt. The Asian countries and, Russia and China are selling US dollar treasuries because they're all over limit and they don't want to be in US dollars, which I do believe will come crashing down this year. You cannot keep issuing US dollars into the market with no balance sheet behind it. And, eventually you get to the situation like Germany pre-1933, where the currency becomes worthless. And we've seen that in every country in the world where that keeps happening. So the debt ceiling will have implications, there's no doubt, for Bitcoin. The US House of Representatives yesterday approved a bill to raise the debt ceiling for $1.5 trillion. $1.5 trillion, but again, they're talking about significant government cuts of spending, which again is going to affect growth in the US, okay? I believe growth for the next quarter coming up will be negative. And if you have 2 quarters of negative growth every 3 months, you're in an absolute recession. 3 quarters of negative growth, you're in a depression, okay? No one's talking about depression, but I believe the US is going into depression, which means interest rates need to come down in yield, okay? So, this has got to get through the Senate to increase this debt limit of $1.5 trillion, and obviously there's argy-bargy between the Democrats and the Republicans for this. Now we've seen in the past the US government had to stop paying public servants because they didn't get this debt limit increased in time, right? So it's a terrible situation, really, really bad. And while we've got that, we're seeing other economies are starting to grow faster than the US, and also other economies are growing faster re-cryptocurrency, okay? And, the incredible technical systems of cryptocurrency and the mainnet and decentralization. Also, there's a flavor and a theme across the world that people are not happy or satisfied with banks or taking on banking risk. And you can appreciate that when First Republic came down so quickly. It was just literally, in a matter of days, this thing got smashed, okay? And that's the thing in these markets now. This thing, was trading up at 120 bucks, March the 13th, and it's been absolutely smashed. I mean, you can imagine being an investor in that thing. You've lost a fortune, an absolute fortune. The thing is in markets now, because they're all interrelated by cash and everything else, equity markets come crashing down, particularly when, a company or a bank has gone broke. And that's effectively what you see with First Republic, okay? It's an absolute failure and another failure in the US banking system. The US banks, there's about 9,000 US banks, and there's many retail banks, and many of them could be subject to failure as well because of this contagion and contamination by other banks that have gone broke as well. And this debt ceiling is just going to add to the worries of the US for sure. Absolutely. So, John Deaton from XRP said that the banking crisis has just started, and I agree with the guy. This is only the beginning, and we are seeing more and more banks fall off the perch, okay? Fall off the perch. And coupled with that, you've got the SEC, still with Gary Gensler, the CEO, the chairman of the SEC, still applying fines to everyone in crypto land. And now the US is losing, losing the race for cryptocurrency and cryptocurrency technology, okay? We see people overseas, much more pro-cryptocurrency. And again, we're seeing US cryptocurrency firms and exchanges move out of the US. And it really is a disaster for the US particularly, right? Also, unemployment is rising on the tech side of things. There's been more people have lost their jobs this year than the whole of last year. And honestly, the Feds, what they look at in terms of their own analysis, I think it's absolutely flawed. It's absolutely flawed. They've got no idea, okay? No idea. So, we've seen 3 banks in the US already go down, plus First National, obviously it was Silicon Valley, Signature Bank, and Silvergate, okay? And UBS and Credit Suisse, don't forget that either, because Credit Suisse used to be a very highly rated bank as well in Switzerland, and it got bailed out by UBS for $1, which is quite incredible. So also talking about cases against the, with the SEC, Ripple has been ongoing for about two or more years. Crypto law founder, attorney John Deaton said that the summary judgment of Ripple versus the SEC should come on or before May the 6th, 2023. So that's an important event that we'll put in our platform, in our app. Very, very important, because this is a big decision. Is XRP a security or not? According to Gensler, all cryptocurrency except Bitcoin is a security, which means there's over 23,000 cryptocurrencies and tokens. He is just not flexible. He never talks about technology. When he went to Capitol Hill, it was a joke what the guy didn't know, third income. He's just an academic and has got no idea about the technology of cryptocurrency, which is bigger than the internet, people, bigger than the internet. Now, Galaxy links up with an asset manager as a part of the European push, and it doesn't surprise because, again, everyone is looking to get more advancement in their business, to grow their business by going to Europe and Asia. Galaxy formed a strategic partner with German-based DWS, a fund group with nearly $1 trillion under assets, to introduce exchange-traded products for the European investors, which they're not allowed to do in the US because of the SEC. Also, the SEC keeps saying that all the rules are clear, but certainly Mr. Gensler is not listening to the exchanges. They're not listening to Coinbase. They're not listening to Ripple. They're not listening to anyone. They just got this arrogance, which is killing the US economy. It's as simple as that. Galaxy also formed a collaboration with Invesco, which is another European fund, to increase their management, and also they partnered with IoT Asset Management, Latin America's largest private asset manager. So, you know, we see this with all the exchanges getting out of the US, okay? All the crypto-related corporations getting out of the US, and it's a shocker. The next big news story, which I think is very relevant, is global investment manager giant Franklin Templeton announced it's launching Franklin Online US government money fund on the Polygon platform. Great for Polygon, okay? Polygon's a great story. It's still extremely cheap at $1.02. And the fact that Franklin Templeton, which is huge, is using their mainnet, which is a fantastic story for Polygon, okay? An absolute fantastic story. Yeah, it really is. Franklin Templeton had 1.4 trillion assets under management, right? And now they're using Polygon's blockchain network. Absolutely fabulous for Polygon, I've got to tell you that. Also, BitGet pledges 10 million for Fetch AI ecosystem. We actually have Fetch. It's an AI and we love it. And they've given them $10 million to develop the Fetch AI ecosystem. This is fantastic because BitGet, they are a crypto derivatives exchange, but they're mainly in Asia, okay? So it's basically to provide the money to Fetch to build autonomous and autonomous services, increase the infrastructure and the mainnet of Fetch, and work and create a decentralized network, which is fantastic for Fetch, okay? Really, really great. And we love Fetch. We think it's a very, very cheap artificial intelligence coin currently at about, what, 35 cents or something. Also, Binance, biggest exchange in the world, has returned to Japan after the Sakura exchange shut down. This is big for Binance. They look like they're going back to Japan and they'll set up operations in June. Again, getting out of the US. I think Binance US may just decide to forget it. Changpeng Zhao has something like 1,000 people on compliance out of 8,000 people, and he's just had enough of the SEC and, you know, all the US regulatory authorities, you know, over there. It's just too much for him, which is fair enough. Coinbase have had enough as well. So they're going to increase their presence in Japan, and will launch Binance Japan probably within the next couple of months, which is a great story for Binance, okay? I see Binance's coin very cheap, very cheap. It's $3.28. It is a steal. It should be higher than Ethereum, okay? Ethereum are losing clients. Their trading volume is lower. There's a lot of other alternative mainnets which are cheaper, like Tron, for example, which is just amazing, and it's only 6 cents compared to Ethereum at 1,900 or so. So even though Binance has got regulatory pressure from multiple jurisdictions, they see, you know, a big, you know, opportunity in Japan. Crypto is very, very popular in Japan. While Binance battles with regulators, its $9 billion VC arm, venture capital arm, is growing like crazy, right? You know, a year ago they were 7.5 billion. Now they're 9 billion. They have great people in their business that are always looking for mergers and acquisitions and opportunity to invest in, you know, startups. And look, Changpeng Zhao, the CEO of Binance, as far as I'm concerned, is a genius, right? He's a very smart guy. Currently, he's being sued by the Futures Trading Commission for unregistered trading activity in the US. And seriously, you know, Binance should just get out of the US. I think they should. It's too hard. Get out of there and go somewhere else like everyone else, right? You know, again, Binance is growing like crazy, and the coin should be more than $3.28. Okay, it's as cheap as chips. As cheap as chips. If you look at this, this is the growth from Block Pro. Amazing story. Amazing story. They are building all the time, and you know they've got big you know, exposures to the Asian market as well. Okay, they also have invested in 3 firms: Thailand-based metaverse startup Playbooks, Korean blockchain game developer Gobble and Gameta, and a Web3 platform based in the Virgin Islands. Okay, so Binance is getting out of the US and operating in other countries and investing in other countries because it's just too hard, you know, to be in the US, which doesn't surprise me. Also, they've employed some great people like this Natalie Liu, who was from Terra Labs, that have employed people that have got banking backgrounds, as well as Kevin Poe, formerly regulated the Monetary Authority of Singapore, who's involved in both M&As, mergers and acquisition, and ventures. I mean, Binance is a meganaut. They're a bank. They are huge, and they should not be at $328. I've got them, they should be higher than Ethereum, okay? Again, as I said, they've got roughly about 8,000 employees, but if you look at their web pages for new employees, they're looking for about 500 to 600 people for all over the world, okay? It is a fantastic business and a fantastic business. Also, when you look at Binance's activity, it's incredible, right? Binance is seriously, seriously smart. They did a hard fork on the 27th designed to onboard new functionalities. They've recorded a sharp uptick in development activity, large addresses starting to purchase Binance token. They should, because Binance is cheap. It's actually a coin, not a token, by the way, because they have their own mainnet. Again, if you look at this, you can see that, volume starting to increase. And also, there's been a reduction in their gas fee, and they've got new tools and things for the end user, okay? It's an incredible story. The last action by Binance reduced their transaction costs by 40%, yet we see Ethereum's transaction costs go up and up and up, even though they're supposed to have a hard fork to proof of stake, but their cost of transactions is still incredibly high. So the Binance chain undertook the Lubin hard fork on the 27th, designed to introduce new functionality and multiple enhancements. For instance, the BEP 126 report quicker finality mechanism, lower costs, and a faster completion of blocks, okay, which just makes the system overall very, very quick and fast. And also they set up the system more to take on NFTs and everything else, right? Binance is incredible, right? And it is cheap, cheap, cheap. And I don't know why it's not trading higher than Ethereum, but it will in the future. I believe that. Binance's, ecosystem is getting bigger and bigger, and there's more and more large addresses, and some of the big whales are buying Binance because it is cheap as chips. Don't forget, Binance also burned their own coin. They burnt 2 million units last week or the week before, and Chainpeng Zhao said that he only wants 100 million units of Binance out there in terms of supply. So to me, it is a no-brainer. Binance should be at $2,000 a coin as far as I'm concerned. Also, Binance US to offer Web3 branded domains minted on Polygon network. Again, this is just to increase, obviously, all their NFTs and everything else. People can sign up and, launch domains and all sorts of things, right? So again, Binance is doing some great things. They are a bank, seriously, and they should be priced like a bank. They're huge. They had the largest cryptocurrency traders and investments addresses in the world, and they are huge. And at 328, they are seriously, seriously underpriced. Now, Coinbase now, is basically, they've responded to the SEC's well notice, and effectively they are going to fight the SEC, right, about the staking feature. The SEC says it's security, which it's not. The SEC just hasn't got a clue. So Coinbase will come out and said, we are going to fight the SEC, and we're going to fight them with tooth and nail. And honestly, we're even deciding to leave the US, right? Ripple will probably leave the US, so will Coinbase, so will Binance. It's just a matter of time, right? They're just, again, I believe Brian Armstrong, the SEC is just wrong. They have no idea, and they're just wrong. So they've initiated legal proceedings in the federal court demanding the SEC respond to their petition filed in July of 2022. Also, Mr. John Deaton from Ripple, the attorney, basically said, good on Coinbase, because we believe the same thing. Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong and General Counsel Paul Gregwell stated the US exchange will fiercely defend itself in court against any legal action taken by the SEC. At the same time, they expressed a desire for clarity in regulating the crypto industry through cooperation and dialogue, which the SEC is just not doing, and Gary Gensler is not listening. There is no clarity. and he's not listening. He's just an arrogant sod, fair income. Also, Ripple, even though they've got the SEC case going on, they've done some great things. Again, Brad Garlinghouse said, you know, we need regulatory clarity. Ripple will fight the SEC tooth and nail until the end. And clearly, if it goes against them, they've said that they will also move out of the States, right? XRP Ledger is growing, as Mr. Garlinghouse said, 114,000 new wallets, 116 million transactions, and 140,000 XRP being burned during 2023. They are increasing, you know, their market share in the market globally, and the SEC is just, you know, stopping their business growth. It is a shocker, right? An absolute shocker. The SEC basically is taken a law to its own self and is not looking at the big picture, which is a disaster for the US market. I've got to tell you that. Also, they brought out their markets report, which basically indicated that they're growing significantly. On-chain improvements. They had net sales of 361 million compared to a year ago, about 200 million. They are adding more clients all the time. Also, NFTs trading on XRP Ledger is gaining more momentum. So they're in NFTs as well. And, you know, again, they're getting more and more people, right? Again, Ripple, if you look at this, has 2,000 NFT collections on XRP Ledger, and it's a cumulative volume of 22 million. And this has only started, okay? And, you know, they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's a great story. If you look at their NFT collections, it's rising all the time. And this is what's increasing Ripple's transactions, okay? Also, the transaction report shows that Ripple increased by 9% during the first quarter, and they also increased the decentralized exchange volume as well. So it is a pretty good story. Also, don't forget, XRP is green, and it barely costs you anything to do transactions, okay? It is a fantastic story. And again, XRP should be a lot higher than where it is. Fair income, you know, I've got a market value of XRP at $12.50 per unit. So again, XRP are growing all the time, regardless of the SEC and their onerous, ridiculous stance on cryptocurrency technology and their ridiculous stance against anyone that's in cryptocurrency or anyone that has banking relationships or cryptocurrency firms. They just anti them all the way, which again is unconstitutional. And, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if there's more banks coming out that are crypto focused, as well as other exchanges that start suing the SEC for loss of growth, loss of funds, and all that sort of thing. We also see that Bittrex is going to be fighting the SEC as well. Hubie, Justin, some will be fighting the SEC as well. They'll all be fighting the SEC. Also, we see MasterCard and Visa expanding into cryptocurrency, which is great for those guys. They believe that this is where you need to be. You know, cryptocurrency and technology is incredible. And the Visa and MasterCard are both very active in getting relationships and partnerships with other blockchain and mainnet companies, okay? And this is a great story. Visa have also got relationships and partnerships with Binance, Gemini, and Nexo. Also, Justin Sun announced the launch of Hubie Visa card as well. MasterCard now partnering with Aptos, Ava Labs, which is Avalanche, Polygon, and Solana, okay? Also, we've seen Visa partnership with Microsoft, Cinquena, and Agro Token, and many other platforms for small, medium enterprises. Also, Google Cloud joins hands with Polygon Labs to boost Web3 development, killing Ethereum, okay? Killing Ethereum. In my mind, Ethereum should not be where it is in terms of price. Google Labs supports Polygon protocols and believes that they've got the right business model to increase, you know, games, to increase supply chain management, DeFis, and all sorts of things. And that's a great partnership for Polygon. An absolute great partnership. Also, there's a big story out there that US loses crypto market share in the first quarter 2023 because of the ridiculous US-led crackdown, okay? If you look at the stats, you know, according to cryptocurrency research by Token Site, cryptocurrency market lost its share. Literally, you know, Coinbase lost a share of 1.3, Kraken 0.6, and Binance 0.37. If you look at the volumes that were done in the first quarter, even though volumes have increased 40%, that, you know, all the big companies have basically lost about 10% to Asia, which is not a great story, okay? This is from, it's quite a good chart. It's from Token Site, and it shows that Binance is doing, you know, 55% of the volume. OKEx is doing 12. Bybit, BitGet, NextGate. Now, all these are in Asia, okay? Asia, Binance is in Asia, so is OKEx, so is Bybit. The OKEx moved out of America. BitGet's in Asia, Gates in Asia, KuCoin, Upbit, Coinbase is looking at Asia, so is Justin Sun's moved to Asia, so is Deribit, they've moved to Dubai. It just continues. Bitfinex, Bittrex has also got out of there. So it just continues, right? People are getting out of the US because it's just too hard. Cryptocurrencies, including Coinbase and Kraken, earlier hinted at moving offshore due to a lack of regulatory clarity. And we've seen that with Bittrex, we saw it in Nexo, we saw it with Deribit, we're seeing it with Hubi, we saw it with Poloniex, and many, many others. We're even seeing it with Gemini as well, right? The Winklevoss twins. So again, Andreessen Horowitz warns that this stifling regulation in the US because the SEC, the United States is losing its crypto dominance, which is a shocker, an absolute shocker, given that cryptocurrency technology is the biggest innovation since the internet, okay? The United States was home to 40% of digital asset developers in 2018, and now seeing this number slide to 30%. People are moving out, and it is a disaster, an absolute disaster. The SEC needs to change what it's doing, because otherwise there's going to be a brain drain, and everyone, you know, that's connected with cryptocurrency technology will just get out of the US. Andreessen Horowitz said, banning new business models of technology undermines American values and drives innovation and jobs elsewhere. Legal businesses and their clients deserve access to financial services and lawful protection from banking relationships to data privacy, the report says. This is huge, right? It's pretty bad when you look at the stats, okay? It's a shocker. Again, the SEC has been, you know, passing out massive fines. Kraken had to pay 30 million, Nexo had to pay 50 million. Now they're trying to find other people. There was another company, they fined 4 million. How do they get these fines? It's beyond me, seriously. You know, they just make them up out of the air, literally. They fine everyone to the nth degree, and it's killing, you know, American corporate cryptocurrency technology. Coinbase, you know, could leave, and it doesn't surprise me. And, you know, they made that warning because it's not constructive what's happening in the US. And it's killing everyone. Gary Gensler has called for crypto exchanges direction of the agency. Since the beginning of January, the SEC has issued 14 enforcement actions against crypto firms and individuals. This is since January, but last year there was 50 actions. And, you know, they literally got fines of about $4.8 billion or more compared to the year before of $2 billion. It's a shocker. Absolute shocker. Now, Crypto.com, one of our holdings, has joined forces with Samsung. And don't forget, they're also joined forces with Amazon Web Services, which is fantastic for them. This is a massive partnership for them with Samsung, massive. Now, Justin Sun of Toronto also has a massive partnership with Samsung as well. This is a great story for Crypto.com. And again, you know, it's in Asia, right? In Asia, to build and to join hands to drive a crypto global adoption, right? The growth is not in the US, and everyone is getting out of the US, okay? It's as simple as that. Simple as that. So, you know, again, Mr. Gensler needs to be moved seriously because the US is just going to suffer terribly, right? Also, CryptoLink Cross River Bank, another one, receives an FDIC order, another regulatory, department in the US about, demanding further oversight according to a filing made public on April 28th. The bank receives order for lending compliance. Again, every department in the US is picking on anyone that's related to cryptocurrency, and it's just ridiculous. Again, they will probably fight as well. Again, they've been told to pay a fine of $642,000. But again, these guys will fight, like Circle's going to fight the US, as well as Coinbase, Ripple, and many, many others. Okay, it is a shocker, an absolute shocker, and you can't blame them because then on the other side you've got Hong Kong, open to cryptocurrency exchanges and making it very easy for cryptocurrency exchanges to open there and get the gateway, the door to Asia via China, and its growth is going to be magnificent. And every cryptocurrency exchange is there. Also, they want cryptocurrency technology to be the hub in Asia, and it's huge. Another one is Taiwan's traditional banks to offer cryptocurrency service. This is big. Approximately 27 domestic exchanges operate, and the banks are going to offer cryptocurrency services, something like about 50 banks in Thailand. Okay. The regulation, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority has said to banks and institutions, please be pro cryptocurrency and please support them, which is a great story. Coupled with that, you've got the world's first comprehensive regulatory framework, MiCA, which is in Europe, and basically it's markets in cryptocurrency assets. The legislation is very pro cryptocurrency, and again, the US is just going to lose. Okay, there's just so much going on here. And while that's happening, the US is still divided over crypto market structure, and probably being the US, they'll take 2 or 3 years, and by that time, every exchange or corporate in the US will be overseas. Another big event is for Avalanche. They're going to unlock 168 million Avalanche tokens in May, and that'll be on our crypto events list on our platform and on our app. These tokens will be unlocked in the coming month, and according to K3 Research, it's going to be about 168 million. What have they got? 9.5 million to be unlocked in 1 month, and then there'll be which is worth 168 million, I should say. So that's always an idea to keep on that, because this can cause a depletion in the price of Avalanche because more supply is coming to the market. Okay. Another story we've got is Chainlink and Valve's software upgrade to boost node efficiency. Chainlink's an incredible story. It is cheap. They get 2 clients a day. It's an amazing story, and it's very, very cheap. Also noticed in the sector that cannabis crypto had gone up quite a lot. Not that I invest in cannabis, and apparently this one here, Canation, went up over a week 9,495%. Amazing. Anyway, OKX, again, an offshore exchange, but also in Asia, are supporting Conflicts Network. We're investing in Conflicts Network. It's one of my favorite coins of all time because it's compliant with the Chinese government, and they use Conflicts Network. Oh, thirsty, excuse me. So you can actually stake, Conflicts on OKX. OKX are doing some great things. We're invested in OKX. It's a great exchange. We bought this thing at $13 OKX, and I think it's about $50. So it's a fantastic story. And they're certainly expanding in Asia as well. It's the second biggest exchange by trading volume, and it's a leading Web3 ecosystem. They have 50 million global users, and they're partnered with Manchester Unity, McLaren Formula, and many other well-known people. And they are basically expanding in Asia big time. Also, Justin Sun's Tron is very, very cheap. We love Tron. It is so cheap. They have 150 million unique accounts. It's one of the fastest growing public blockchains, and the coin is only 6.5 cents, right? And it is definitely an Ethereum killer, right? They're killing it. Total number of accounts, 154.827 million. They're doing so many transactions It's incredible. Okay. Plus they have a lot of staking, and they're just killing it, absolutely killing it. They have a delegated proof of stake, and they have, smart consensus with super representatives. Justin Sun's Tron is very, very cheap and very, very underpriced. They're doing more transactions than anyone else in the market, including Ripple, okay? And it's such a cheap coin. Keep an eye on it because, they can do literally 2,000 transactions per second and building, and they're as cheap as Ripple, okay? Very, very cheap. They've never had a hack, and, again, they are seriously cheap and they have the fundamentals. Whether you like Justin Sun or not, I think he's a genius. And honestly, his ecosystem is incredible. Don't forget he was on Ethereum in 2018 and he's built this system from nothing, right? And again, when you look at the staking and the network, Justin Sun literally has, massive amount of staking. And if you look at Ethereum, which was, obviously older than Justin Sun's Tron, Ethereum was developed in 2012. Tron is an amazing story, and they are a direct competitor with Ethereum, okay? And they are cheap, cheap, cheap. Also, Mr. Sun bought some very, very cheap companies like Poloniex, BitTorrent, and made a fortune and did an incredible story, okay? So I do regard Tron as a very, very cheap coin. Also, talking about Ethereum, they're going, their growth is really going down quite a lot, and that's why I don't like Ethereum. But even Arbitrum surpassed Ethereum in total transactions processed, right? So all up, people, I think interest rates are way too high, a lot of trouble in the US. I think interest rates will eventually come down, and I do believe that this will be a mega, mega crypto rally this year. We have hyperinflation. People don't trust banks. There's contagion in the system. The Fed hasn't got a clue. The SEC hasn't got a clue. And people will get out of the US. And also, I believe that gold is going to go through the roof because we have hyperinflation, and there will be a demise in the US dollar. So, very, very interesting times, I have to say. Very interesting times as well. So, and also on our platform, we're looking at crypto stamps, which is another new area. Fascinating. Stamps have gone up quite a lot. We're invested in them. And, if you come and join our app, you'll be able to see our analysis on crypto stamps, which is quite amazing. It's fascinating. Anyway, guys and girls, that's enough of me. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you very soon. And thank you very much for listening. Thank you.